Likes and comments do not pay the bills. Courtney and I sit down with Andy Neary of Complete Game Consulting. Andy is an expert at LinkedIn and converting your LinkedIn audience to conversations that do convert so you can pay the bills. And that's exactly what we tackle in today's episode: how to grow your audience, how to put out content that's specific to your audience that does convert into those conversations. So with that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Michael and Courtney Weaver, and we have a very special guest with us today, Andy Neary. Andy, how are you doing, my man?
Fantastic, Mike. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
And I cannot wait to dive into this conversation. So what we're going to be discussing today is LinkedIn and how to brand yourself, how to maximize, how to convert to real dollars, baby. All right. So the very first thing is why should you not be sleeping on LinkedIn, Andy?
It has more organic growth, I think, than any of the other platforms right now. Even though recently it did take a little downturn in engagement than it had before, it is still by far the platform to get organic growth especially if you are in the business to business sales arena. There is not a better platform right now to get attention.
Well, business to business, I just got to be thinking, if you're an insurance agent right now, what are you wanting? You're wanting more commercial business, because personal lines is kind of tough right now. So that's exactly why we're talking about this today, Andy.
Okay, but you said something before we hit record when we were talking about LinkedIn, because LinkedIn just looks boring to me. It just looks like there's not a lot happening, but you said something about comparing it to Facebook. So share that.
A lot of people have this view. I still see people doing this today, and it's interesting behavior, but they get angry when somebody makes a post on LinkedIn that is personal. Maybe it's sharing a story about their family or a hobby, and they're like, this is LinkedIn, this is for business. Yeah, it was a recruiting platform 15 years ago. It's not anymore. In the words of Gary Vaynerchuk, LinkedIn acts more like Facebook than ever before, because what it is it's an awareness platform. It's not a sales platform. It's an awareness platform. And if you use content to teach your prospects and let them get to know you, you're going to build likability and credibility, two key ingredients to win business today. So it is an amazing platform to build that likability and credibility. It's not what it used to be. So don't have the fears that you can only discuss business. No, it's a great way to connect with your prospects.
I agree. No, I agree. Like, I'm not to say I'm the greatest at it yet, but I've devoted a lot of time the last 12 to 18 months, and it's really starting to pay off. And so, Andy, I would love to know what you see, not only yourself, but your peers, those that you're teaching. What are they doing really well, and what are some of the mistakes that they should avoid?
First, let's start with the mistakes. When I see people using LinkedIn, the first one is using it like a sales platform. So you make a connection with a prospect and then you instantly send them a message to try to schedule a coffee or a call. No.
Boo. I hate that, man. Like, I get people sliding up in my DMs all the time trying to sell me shit.
I know. I feel like it's like an OnlyFans.
It's that automated spam, and people are just more skeptical of the sales pitch than ever before, right? That's number one. Number two, likes and comments don't pay the bills. If you're going to create content just for the likes and the comments, you're not going to do well on LinkedIn. You're going to post content that you think the algorithm wants versus doing the one job you're supposed to do, which is talk to your prospects. And then the third mistake is thinking the content's going to create the magic. We work with a lot of advisors who want to use LinkedIn more effectively. The problem is they go and they start creating content and they're like, well, why am I not getting any inbound leads? Well, the content builds the awareness. You still got to do the work in the DMs to create activity. And so I think those are the three biggest mistakes I see people make. What people are doing right is when they get very clear about who their ideal prospect is. And they go to LinkedIn and they put their blinders on, they put their guardrails on, not looking at what anybody else is doing, and they just create content for their prospects. They make connections with target prospects, and then they use DMs to interact with prospects. It will lead to activity. I firmly believe, guys, if you put the work in every day on this, you almost can't not create activity. But you have to know who you're trying to target in the first place.
So let's talk about the DMs before we, because I do want to go back to ideal customer. So we're drumming up business and you're talking about you're actually selling in the DMs. What's that conversation even look like?
Yeah, so I'll share a little great tip, a little some hacks. I hate the word hacks, but I'll share some hacks with you. So the two ways we reach out to people, or we teach our clients to reach out to people, is if you've got the premium or navigator subscriptions, there's actually an analytic in your profile that says who's viewed your profile. And if you've got one of the paid subscriptions, you actually get to see an unlimited list of who's looking at you. Our thought there is, why not use what we call the store clerk approach? If you walked into a store today, what is one of the first things the clerk's going to say to you? Courtney, is there anything I can help you with? Well, if you're just looking, you're going to say, no, I'm good, just looking. But if you walk into a hardware store and you've got a 6-inch screw and you need a dozen of these and they say, can I help you? You're going to be like, what aisle are these in? We take the same approach to your profile. When somebody's looking at it, they're there for two reasons. Maybe they're just looking, trying to figure out who you are, or maybe they came for a reason. Why not send a message that says, hey, Courtney, was in my profile, you noticed you jumped in. Is there anything I can help you with? We have converted more calls from that message than anything else because there was a reason they came, and all it took was me saying, hey, anything I can help you with? That made them go, yes, I'd like to connect.
Okay, so let's talk about how you're setting that up. How much time is that taking every single day? Because the pushback that I immediately am like, okay, is this going to consume my life? Because my business as an insurance agent is to sell policies and to serve my customers. So let's talk about the strategy of actually getting this done.
So that strategy I just taught you would probably take 10 minutes a day. It's a matter of going in your profile, looking at who's looking at you, and one by one sending a message. Now, here's a cool little feature, and it's hard to believe not enough people know it exists. Did you know you can leave voice messages on LinkedIn?
So, Andy, I was going to ask you this. So, would you recommend text? Would you recommend audio, or would you recommend a video?
Great question. I'd probably go audio first, followed by video, followed by text. The only reason I would put audio over video is some people still view video as possibly spam. But the reason I lean into one or the other, definitely over text, is if I leave you a voice note, I can convey what I'm trying to get across a lot better than me trying to write it, right? A lot gets lost in translation when you're writing. And so if I send Mike a message, say, hey, Mike, was looking at my profile, just noticed you jumped in, anything I can help you with? It sounds very different than me typing that. And so I would say audio or video are two great ways to stand out for sure.
And I feel like when you do that, that you automatically are going to establish that personal connection to where in the world we live in right now with AI, that whoever you're texting or doing the audio message is going to know this isn't something from ChatGPT. This isn't a copy and paste. Like this is them personally reaching out. And I think that goes a long ways in today's times.
I agree. It's funny how as technology continues to disrupt what we're doing, it makes the human touch more important. And so when people connect with me, for example, I always send them a thank you note, and it's a voice note. So, Courtney, you sent me a connection request today, and we connect. And the next day or two, I'll probably send you a voice message that says, hey, Courtney, thank you for connecting. If you need anything, feel free to reach out now that we're connected. I put a lot of content on LinkedIn for the insurance profession. I hope you can use it, but I just wanted to reach out and say thanks. And I do that as a voice note. And what's interesting is more than half of the messages I send out, I get replies from advisors saying, whoa, I didn't know you could do that. That's really cool. And I'm like, exactly. You want to make a good first impression with a prospect? One, don't sell them on the first message. But why not send them a nice little thank you and do it over the voice? It's going to help you stand out. It's an amazing way to make a great first impression.
Gosh. Well, my response is going to be like, Andy, I need help with LinkedIn. So I'm just going to replay this podcast episode back because everything that you've already shared, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gobbling it up because it's such a new platform for me. Like it's intimidating. So if you're listening and you're like, I'm used to Facebook and I'm used to Instagram and I'm used to YouTube and there's so many different platforms, going all in on one sounds like, if I'm going to bet on one, I'm probably going to bet on LinkedIn based on everything that I'm hearing right now. But okay, I do have a question because I want to go back to the ideal customer because a lot of what you do is go into agencies and really work on their messaging and making sure that they are speaking to their ideal customer, making sure that they're all on the same page. So how would I even know? I think I'm speaking to my ideal customer. What would be the signs that you're like, you're not speaking to your ideal customer?
The quickest way to know that, Courtney, is I want you to go to your website, look at your headline statement, and ask, who are you talking about, yourself or the prospect? If you look at most agencies' websites, the whole website is telling their own story, not the story of their prospect. So if you want to make a quick shift in your marketing, you got to shift who the hero of the story is. So some of you two probably might know the book Building a Story Brand, right? I read that in 2016, 17. It totally changed my thought process and around marketing. In fact, I became a story brand certified guide for the reason of their content, because every story has been told the same way for thousands of years, right? A hero who has a goal, but has a problem keeping them from the goal, who needs a guide with a plan to avoid failure and have success. When you tell stories, that's called marketing. But it's important to know whose story you're telling. And the key you have to remember is your prospect is the hero of the story. You're not. So if you can figure out who your ideal prospect is and you develop their story, what their life is like today, why they need your help, what problem do they need help with, and what's your plan to help them have success, and you go tell that story in places like your website, your LinkedIn content, all of your marketing slicks, your emails, your marketing is going to be more effective because it's a story they can buy into.
Donald Miller. Oh, so good. I absolutely love him. So I'm looking at the insurance space and I'm going, okay, my customer is the hero of my story. Give me an example of what that would even look like, because in the insurance field, we're all selling the same product and service. So it's easy for me to say, this is how I am different as the agent.
I love hearing that, because when we work with agencies, Courtney, one of the questions we ask is, what makes you unique? And most of the time we get our service, it's our integrity. And my response is, that's great. You might have the best service I've ever seen. But guess what? Every one of your competitors is saying the same thing.
Same thing.
You have to tell me what truly makes you unique. And this is where building that story of the ideal prospect becomes so important, because if you start telling me what my life looks like today, what problem am I dealing with today, how is that problem making me feel, what are the thoughts going through my head because of that problem, what you start to do is you're starting to rent space in my head, because the marketing you're putting out is making me go, were they in the room yesterday? I mean, this is the exact conversation we had. And that's the kind of marketing that gets their attention, not we were founded in 1971 and we're a preferred partner with. Nobody cares. They just want to know what's in it for them. And that's why you have to focus on telling the prospect story. You know, one of the exercises we really laser in on with our clients is psychographics, right? In the insurance industry, we have been taught how to identify ideal prospects demographically. Size, location, industry. In the benefits space, it was the number of employees. That's important. However, that's not where the gold is found. The gold is found in psychographics. Who are your ideal prospects between the ears? What do they stand for? What do they believe? What do they think about what you sell? That's where you're going to find the people who are going to let you do your best work. So if you can include the ideal target buyers' psychographics in your marketing, you've struck gold. Because that's what's going to get them to go, yes, that's us. And we've seen it work time and time again.
I love this, because I'm thinking about, for me as a customer, where I'm at in my life. Like, my main pain point is planning for the future, is looking at putting money away from retirement. What do I need to be investing in? How do I make sure I don't run out of money? So if you're speaking to that pain point, if you were to talk to me and talk exactly about how you solve that problem, then I'm like, oh, you understand me. You got this. This is an easier way to start a conversation. I love that you're bringing that up.
Well, and you bring up another important point there. If I can also tell you that I've gone through the same problem at one time in my life, yet I found a solution to solve it, you really resonate with me. You know, we talked about AJ and Rory Vaden offline, right? One of the things I learned from Rory, which has been absolutely imperative to my business, is you are best positioned to serve the person you once were. And I know that can be hard for advisors to convey because you're like, wait, I'm selling to a business. I'm selling insurance to a business. How am I best positioned to serve the person I once was? How about up here? What are the things you've gone through up here that your prospect can relate to? Because the reason your best prospects are your best prospects has nothing to do with the fact you make the most money on them. It has everything to do with you and them are aligned psychographically. These are the people who are going to let you do your best work. And so when you start telling that story of what their life is like up here, to your point, Courtney, that's where they're saying, this man or woman gets me. This company gets me. And that's what gets people drawn in. And that's actually what turns LinkedIn content into inbound leads.
I love that.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to get, and you kind of hinted at this earlier, but I want to get into the tangibles. So if somebody wanted to create that ideal avatar, talking about these psychographics, what is a great starting point for them to do?
Awesome. Great question. We call it the 5-star prospect profile. It starts with who's your ideal prospect, both demographically and psychographically. So make a list of the demographics of your ideal client. Make a list of the psychographics of your ideal client. So again, what do they stand for? What do they believe? What do they think about what you sell? If you could paint the perfect prospect, what do they look like? Now let's talk about the problem. And I know your team solves a lot of problems, but what's the one problem that fires you up? What's the problem you love solving and the problem you solve better than anybody else? Become known for one thing. So we dig into that, and then we go 2 layers deeper into that problem. 2, internally, how does that problem impact your prospect? How does it make them feel? And then philosophically, why are they not solving it today? What's keeping them from solving that today? Which is where the objections come out, right? Now we need to go into the plan. You're the guide, right? You, the advisor, are the guide in this story. So we build out your plan. So what is the plan or the process you use to solve their problem? Most people have a solid 3 or 4 step process they use to help their turn prospects into clients. So what does that look like? And then what success does that process help your prospect achieve? And when you walk through the point is laying out who your ideal prospect looks like, what problem you love solving, how that problem impacts them internally. Why might they not do it? These are all key pieces that are going to set up a very effective marketing strategy. Because if you can get in between my ears, if you can rent space in my head, if you can talk about the objections before they even come out of my mouth, you're going to help me overcome those objections a lot easier. And so really we've just found, again, that's just the 7-part framework in StoryBrand. We have found that message to be so effective, and it allows agencies to create a clear message. You'd be surprised, guys, how many agents I've talked to. When I ask them who your ideal buyer is, they tell me anybody willing to say yes.
I'm actually not surprised because I asked this question too, and I get everyone, or I get anyone that can drive, anyone from 18 to 75. And I'm like, skirt, that's a wide range.
Now, in all fairness, that's what I used to think. Like as a producer and even as a young agent, I'm like, shit, anybody that's saying yes,
Every
let's
day
go,
I'm
baby.
hustling,
Like I gotta make some money.
Yes, but that's how we were taught, Mike, right? See
Yes.
prospect, sell prospect. Who cares if they're weird as long as the check clears? Go get the money.
Amen. Yep. Now what we're saying is that is actually not the right answer. All right. Like the better you can get at being specific at who you're helping. So this has helped us tremendously in every business. But if you can know exactly who you want to work with and help, you will be more successful, period.
Here's a great example of this. So I've got a client, an employee benefit agency, and they were definitely that definition of somebody going after all revenue, right? And we got them really clear on who they're a best fit for. And we talked about, what are the common objections right now that you're hearing that is keeping you from winning business? And we said, all right, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go out to your next discovery meeting, and here's what I want you to tell your prospect. Number 1, I want you to lay out who your ideal prospect is. Tell them the type of business you work with. Number 2, I actually want you to tell them how many of those groups you're looking to work with this year. If you only need 8 or 9 wins this year, tell them we're looking to work with 8 or 9 companies. And then I want you to list off all the reasons they're not going to work with you. We're going to show you rates that you'll think are too good to be true. Because you work with a certain carrier, you're going to believe that's the best option. Literally tell them all the objections before they ever come out of their mouth. I call that selling with a little bit of exclusivity. The second they started doing that, guess what happened? Overcoming those objections became a lot easier. They started moving more people to the finish line. And it's because they came in with a different attitude versus we can help everybody. They came in confident knowing we know exactly who we're best fit for.
Mm.
I'm going to replay this episode so many times because it doesn't matter if you've spent time on social media. It doesn't matter how long that you've been here. It is always evolving. And again, if you're in business, your goal is not the vanity numbers. It's how do I convert? How do I pay the bills? There's so much good stuff here, Andy. If somebody wanted to work with you, follow you, what do you have going on?
Yeah, well, first of all, let's connect on LinkedIn, Andy Neary, Complete Game Consulting. But we frequently run a social media sales academy. It's a 6-week course where we teach insurance professionals how to use LinkedIn to grow their business. I personally teach it. And so it's 6 hours of coaching to help you grow your LinkedIn business, right down to the tactics of how to set up your profile, how to make good connections, how to create content, and how to turn connections into conversations. It's really good for people who are in the business to business selling of the insurance industry. However, we know the steps and the pillars we teach apply to B2C as well. But yeah, that's really what we're on a mission to help. We know this. Before somebody hires you, Courtney, today, they're going to Google you. And my question is, what are they going to find? And if they can't find anything, you're losing credibility. And so we want to make sure more producers have an online presence to build that credibility before they ever walk in the door.
Hell yeah, man. This has been awesome. And Andy, you have a podcast too, right?
Yeah. Bullpen Sessions, a podcast dedicated for driven insurance professionals. So yeah, I think it's time to have you guys on as well, now that I think about it.
Let's go.
Put me in, coach. Let's do it. Bullpen sessions. I love it.
Man, this has been so good. So good. So from number one, how to use LinkedIn, what's working, using the DMs, to creating your ideal avatar. You covered it all, Andy. We appreciate you so much. This has been awesome. For all of those that are listening, I would love for you to look. Me and Courtney both took a page of notes. So I would love to know your biggest takeaway. Shoot us a text, 816-727-7610. Other than that, we appreciate you. As always, time and attention are by far the most important asset that you have. So we truly do appreciate you spending the last 20 to 25 minutes with us on The Buzz. Andy, thanks again, brother.
Thanks, guys. This was awesome.